Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have 1993 Shenandoah, a resurrected Amiga shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Limit Break Studio, 1993 Shenandoah was originally planned to release for the Amiga 500 in 1993. Unfortunately, the original title was cancelled, but the project would be resurrected and eventually see life on the PC in 2016 as 1993 Space Machine. Now, fast forward a few more years, and we have this version, 1993 Shenandoah, on the Nintendo Switch. So if you're a fan of early 90s shoot 'em ups, this is an easy title to recommend. It definitely has a feel of the games that would have come out during that time, especially the European developed ones that you would see on the Amiga. And it's got a wonderful feel. Diving into the game, we've got these save files that you can play through. This is wonderful as you don't have to play through the game in one setting. You can play like through half the game, put it down, and then come back to it later and finish it. I love systems like that. Once you select your save file, we're taken to the difficulty selection, Rookie, Skilled, or Hardcore. To show the game off, of course, we'll start with Rookie. Now, this is a Nintendo Switch title, so after you selected your difficulty and whenever you're starting your save file, it will take you to the controller select screen. I'll get back to this in the moment as there are some issues with it. Selecting our Joy-Cons, we're taken to the System Select. So, 1993 Shenandoah allows you to play through the game, most of the game, in any order you wish. You have 5 planets you can select between. We'll start off the game in the farthest left, though, Denax. Some of these stages are easier than others, so it depends how you want to play through the game, but there are some recommendations I could make. So, we don't actually start with a ship ourselves. We have to actually purchase a ship from the armory from our shopkeeper Hill, Elron Hubcap. Going into the shop, we only have enough credits to purchase one of the Class 1 fighters, and they're all functionally identical. The Class 2 fighters do have some differences. They're larger, more powerful, but slower overall. For ourselves, though, since we can take the Class 1, let's take the one that's a little bit of a different color scheme, the more orangey yellow one. If we had more money, we could equip gun pods to the ships. There are 25 different gun pods we could purchase, but since we don't have the money, we'll go with our vanilla fighter. So between the stages, we only saw it for a brief second there, but between the stages there are some really neat, like vintage sci-fi looking eye catch that highlight different stages or bosses in the game, and it's something that I really like. Just one of the nice little bits of flavor that this title happens to have. So as far as the gameplay is concerned, it's a pretty standard horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up that fits the era it was originally developed in. We do have the ability to fire, there are bombs, but one of the unique things we have is this shield. So right now it encompasses roughly half of our ship, which protects our forward section. It's actually possible for us using the bumps on the controller to rotate the shield left and right. The shield also kind of acts as our health meter. If we were to take damage, then the shield gets significantly smaller. A pretty neat system. Also, if the shield itself is hit, there'll be a momentary period where the section of the shield that was hit is basically deactivated as it's recharging, but it only takes a second for that to recharge. Pretty neat. So, as we defeat enemies, every once in a while they'll drop, well, certain larger enemies and objects that we destroy will drop these crystals. These are important for us to collect as they give us additional credits we can use to purchase upgrades in the shops between stages and sometimes during stages, as there is an item in the game that will summon the shop to your location should you pick up that item. So as you can see in the top of the screen here, you've got distance to transport. 1,000 meters. So most of the stages are broken up into two sections, where you have your space stage, where you're transporting to the planet, and then the planet itself. Talking about the HUD itself, you can see there's actually spots for 4 different ships. This game can be played couch co-op up to 4 players, which for this kind of shoot 'em up is actually really awesome. Everybody has their own money amount, and there's also a green value with a heart next to it. Those are our lives. Should we run out of lives, then we'll be reset to a checkpoint, either the start of the level or a later checkpoint if we've achieved one. So here we find ourselves at our first boss fight. This one is relatively basic, but good time to show off the way the bomb works. Interestingly enough, it doesn't feel like the bomb does significant damage to the bosses. It's really good at clearing the screen of shots and enemy fodder, but that's about all it really works. When you are fighting a boss, there is a boss life gauge that appears next to the score total in the top middle of the screen. Once the life of the boss is depleted, you'll get a money bonus, and depending on the stage, the shop will appear. Enter the shop, we get our area cleared information here. So you can see there are 15 total areas in the game that we play through. We've completed one of them, and you have the other information as far as shot accuracy, how much cash, pickups, etc. that we obtained. Back in the shop, we have enough money that we can upgrade or pick some weapons. So actually, I want to equip on the bottom slot. Let's throw this longbow on here. Wall hack is not needed with this, as it fires through anything. More powerful per upgrade. With that, we don't have enough money to upgrade either the ship or the weapon, or purchase any other one. So on to the planet Denax itself. So we do have our essentially, I guess, navigator that comes up telling us information about the stages or the bosses themselves. Just a little bit of neat flavor to develop the world of Shenandoah. So Shenandoah is the name of a terraforming device that Colonel Nestor, who we're trying to find and defeat, stole. And that's hence the title of the game itself. The original Amiga version was going to be titled Shenandoah, Daughter of the Stars, because that's what the word Shenandoah, one of the meanings that Shenandoah can translate as. I'm not 100% sure why they would have dropped the name Shenandoah from the original PC release, but it's nice that it's there for this, the Switch version, as it just gives it, I guess, maybe a little bit more of a unique feel. So, as I was mentioning, there is an issue with the control scheme. So, one thing I've had problems with is when I've played the game in handheld mode. If you try to start the game in handheld mode, it won't accept the game starting with the Joy-Cons attached to the system itself. It's necessary to detach the Joy-Cons and start it either with a single Joy-Con or the 2 Joy-Cons, rather than with them attached to the system. It's something that's a little frustrating, but then if you So here was my workaround for that. Once you've started the game like that, if you were to get to, say, a point like this and pause the game, you can turn the system off, put it into sleep by just hitting the power button, then reattach the Joy-Cons to the system for handheld mode, start the game back up, and it will work properly until the next time the system looks to set up the controllers itself. Just a minor complaint, but one that, I guess has caused a little bit of frustration, if not necessarily ruined my enjoyment of the title. Another complaint, although this one a little bit on the minor side, is the stages are actually quite long. So I mentioned that there was an item that can summon the shop. This is it. If you collect this item in a stage, it brings the shop. And here we can upgrade our weapon, or we can pick up an additional weapon. Let's grab another weapon. Another one that I'm quite fond of is the railgun. And part of the reason I like the railgun is the awesome particle effects that accompany your railgun shot. And that's one thing that I can definitely say. So this game is, from a pixel art perspective, beautiful. You've got a lot of really neat designs and background, especially in some of the more colorful stages. Denax here doesn't really show that off very well, but in addition to that, there's just all these neat little pixel effects. So like that railgun shot, when it fires, you see all these particles flying forward from the shot itself. For some of the weapons, like there's a ground striking bomb, it will actually leave scorch marks on the ground itself, and there are also some really neat particle effects associated with the explosion of that particular weapon. Just nice little bits of detail, and there are also at least like some secrets and Easter eggs that I've come across in the game itself. So really, from like that standpoint, it definitely kind of holds true to the kind of things you would expect to find in a shoot 'em up of this era as well. So we're kind of getting close to the end of the first stage, but I think at this point you have a pretty good idea of what kind of game that 1993 Shenandoah is. So especially if you're looking for titles of that era, this is one that I can thoroughly recommend the taste of. I very much enjoyed my time with the game and have done a complete playthrough on one of the previous saves. The minus flavors, well, the stages, especially the planets, sometimes just feel a little bit too long. This stage is a perfect example. If you were to cut this stage in half, I feel like it would have been perfect in terms of length. As is, it just overstays its welcome ever so slightly. And then this next one is something that hopefully will be fixed in future patches, but just that problem with ease of controller setup for playing on the Switch in handheld mode. It would be nice to see that fixed in the future. But as far as the plus sides are concerned, I love the customization that's available in this game. Being able to collect all those credits, pick different fighters, whether or not they're all that different, and then all the different gun pods you can add to your fighter just kind of gives this wonderful feeling of customization where you can make a fighter that fits your different shoot 'em up playstyle. And then there's also that classic 90s shoot 'em up feel that this game does a wonderful job capturing. So there you have it, 1993 Shenandoah, served for your enjoyment. That'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and as always, I look forward to seeing you again next week.